The night was actually quiet, but fear entered the home without warning, ladies and gentlemen. Soldiers actually moved fast. Doors were actually broken, and voices filled the dark rooms. By morning, ladies and gentlemen, one family was actually left, shaken, injured, and of course searching for answers. What actually happened inside that house in Uganda is now spreading far beyond its walls. So the claims are now serious, ladies and gentlemen. The silence is loud, and of course the attention is growing. This is not a story of noise, but of power, force, and of course a call for truth that many are now watching closely. In Uganda, ladies and gentlemen, now a serious claim has actually been made by the opposition leader Bobi Wine specifically now about events that actually happened during a nighttime raid at his home, ladies and gentlemen. Now, according to his public statements, security forces or soldiers actually entered his house late at night. Yes, late at night in the area of Magari. The incident, he says, involved many armed officers and of course caused fear and of course harm inside the home. These claims have actually drawn strong attention both inside and outside the country of Uganda, ladies and gentlemen. So Bobi Wine has actually explained that the raid actually happened suddenly and without no warning. He said that hundreds of soldiers came, to the house during the night hours.
Now, last night was the third time for them to raid us. They came in hundreds, according to my wife. They broke every door in our house, including those that were not locked. They took away all our documents, from academic documents, land title deeds, and all important documents. They took every gadget, phones, chargers. They took our internet system. They even took all the laptops, including children's school laptops. They also took away our CCTV camera system and destroyed anything that they could destroy, broke glass and cut even our chairs. They put my wife on gunpoint, demanding that she shows them where I was. They even forced her to remove the passwords from her phone and our laptops, but she refused. Well, these and many things that Museveni's regime is doing through his son and his other people are not signs of strength. These are signs of weakness. If Museveni claims that he won the election, why is he panicking? Why is he doing all manner of terrible things? Why is he harassing people?
They were already picking the Wi-Fi. They were already picking all the phones in the room. They took AirPods, chargers, power banks, hoofers, radios, anything electrical, laptops, everything. These people were drunk. The house was stinking. So in that moment I realized that it was not going to end. They took the girl out, they took the scary out, and then they started asking me, so you brought your brother to run in the Kampala MP seat. Did he win? You think you can just bring foreigners and bring them in Kampala and think they will win? And then another one asked me and says, you got married to a, I don't know what they call a winners. What do they call a winners in English? A winners is like a traitor. It's like the worst person that there can be in the world. He said, you married that traitor of a Muganda. Were you not seeing them in your?
According to him, officers actually forced their way inside by breaking doors and of course windows. He said they moved through the house quickly and of course searched many areas. This included rooms by the family and of course other parts of the home, ladies and gentlemen. So ladies and gentlemen, in his statement shared on social media, Bobi Wine said the soldiers were actually looking for him. Yes, looking for him seriously. He said they actually demanded that his wife tell them where he was. He actually stated that the officers pointed a gun at her whilst making these demands. He also said they actually questioned why he and others dared to actually challenge the current president of Uganda, Museveni. These claims actually described a moment of strong pressure and of course fear inside the home, ladies and gentlemen. Bobi Wine actually further claimed that people working in the house were also harmed. Yes, they were harmed. He said the home guard and a domestic worker were actually beaten by the soldiers during the raid, ladies and gentlemen. Now, according to him, these actions happened whilst the officers searched the house and of course asked questions. He said the search was actually forceful and of course did not actually spare any space, including high areas like the roof. One of the most serious claims made by Bobi Wine, ladies and gentlemen, involves his wife. Yes, he stated that during the raid, ladies and gentlemen, his wife was actually subjected to sexual violence by some of the soldiers. He said these included abuse and the taking of obscene photographs. Yes, obscene photographs. So these are very serious allegations. Any form of sexual violence is actually a grave violation of human rights and is strongly condemned under all legal and ethical standards, ladies and gentlemen. So such acts are never acceptable and must always be treated with the highest seriousness and care, ladies and gentlemen. After the incident, Bobi Wine said his wife was actually taken to the hospital, ladies and gentlemen. In a separate update shared later, he actually stated that she spoke from her hospital was on bed about the attack. According to him, ladies and gentlemen, she described how the attack actually happened and of course how the soldiers treated her during the raid. Now, he also said that she was actually receiving medical care following the incident, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in that same update, Bobi Wine and his wife actually added another detail. He said, they said that the soldiers actually did not only search the house but also seized important electronic devices. According to his statement or their statement, items such as phones or other equipment were actually taken from the home during the raid. Well, they didn't actually give much more details about all the items, but said they were actually important and belonged to the household. Now, Bobi Wine and his wife actually described the behavior of the officers during the operation. They claimed that many of them actually appeared to be under the influence of alcohol. Bobi Wine and his wife actually described the behavior of the officers during the operation, ladies and gentlemen. Now, they actually claimed that many of them actually appeared to be under the influence of alcohol. They actually said their actions were actually rough and of course very uncontrolled. Now, according to them, ladies and gentlemen, now this added to the fear and danger felt by those inside the house that night, ladies and gentlemen. So these claims described a scene of disorder rather than calm enforcement, ladies and gentlemen. The opposition leader said the officers searched every room without care. He explained that private spaces were actually entered and of course checked. According to his account, ladies and gentlemen, the soldiers did not actually explain their actions clearly and did not actually present any official papers during the raid. He said the operation felt more like an attack than a lawful search. After the incident became public, attention quickly grew. Many people actually began to discuss the claims online and of course in the media, ladies and gentlemen. So the story actually raised concern because it involved a political figure, security forces, and of course serious woman rights allegations. So however, it is important to note that these are claims made by Bobi Wine, not me, Bobi Wine, and they have not actually yet been confirmed by an independent investigation. Ugandan authorities have not officially commented on the allegations surrounding the night time raid, ladies and gentlemen. So as of now, there has not been no public statement confirming or denying the claims. So this lack of response has actually left many questions unanswered and has increased public interest in the situation. So at this stage, ladies and gentlemen, the situation remains based on the opposition leaders account. No court rulings or official investigation results have been shared publicly yet. So the claims are serious and of course involve issues of safety, human dignity, and of course the rule of law. Because of this, ladies and gentlemen, many observers say the matter deserves careful and of course fair attention. So this episode focuses only on what actually claimed to have happened, when it happened, and of course where it actually took place. It does not actually place blame or blame judgment. So the purpose is to clearly explain the event as described by the opposition leader, and his wife, using simple and of course careful language. Before we continue, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, please make sure that again to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. So this actually helps us share calm and of course clear news with important people like you. Thank you so much for your understanding. So This particular part, okay, explains who is actually involved, okay, so how events actually developed after the raid, and ladies and gentlemen, why the situation actually matters. So the focus remains respectful, calm, and of course factual. The main person speaking about the incident is the opposition leader Bobi Wine, okay, so he's actually known as a political figure in Uganda and has taken part in national elections. So he has also used public messages and social media to speak directly to his supporters and of course the wider public. So in this case, ladies and gentlemen, he actually chose to share his account online soon after the incident. Now, according to his updates, ladies and gentlemen, Bobi Wine was actually not inside the house when the raid actually happening. He said the soldiers were searching for him and wanted to know his location or whereabouts because he was not actually present. His wife and other people in the house faced the officers. So the lack of an official response matters because the claims involve state security forces. When such allegations actually made, okay, clear communication is often expected to help reduce tension and confusion. So without it, questions remain open and public interest continues to grow. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this particular video. Okay, don't forget to actually join this community by liking, subscribing to become part of this community.